Hey everybody, hope you are doing well. In this particular video, we are going to look at the brand new version of Dreamflow. Now, this particular version of the product has gone through substantial change. It is very, very different to the product that I've covered previously. So we're going to take this time to go through it. We're going to kind of try to get a sense of the audience that this particular version of the product is more suited for, because this is quite different to Flutterflow, for example. You know that I've covered loads of Flutterflow content on my channel, but Dreamflow is just different. So we're going to kind of go through, we're going to kind of have a look at the application, we're going to have a look at various features, we're going to kind of prompt, we're going to kind of build out an application just to give us a good starting point, and we're going to kind of see what it generates, and we're going to take it from there. I'll give you my opinions along the way. I'll give you some of my early insights to some of the bits that's worth pointing out as you kind of discover the product and you start to get into it, to start to hopefully build out your next project. So without further ado, let's get into the video and let's get cracking. Okay, so here I am then on the home screen of Dreamflow. Now, before we get started, I want to kind of set the scene in terms of the credit-based system, because of course, as you start using the AI features of Dreamflow to build out your project, it's going to cost you by the use of credits itself. So without further ado, let's have a quick look and just see how many credits we are starting with today. And then of course, you'll be able to see at the end of it, I'll kind of cover it again and see how many we have used up through the use of this particular sort of the building of this project. So if I go up to my kind of my profile icon up here, go to my account settings and come up with statistics here and click on manage plan, you can see here that I'm going to start this particular video with 33.48 credits. Now, of course, depending on what kind of plan that you have, if you're on like the free plan, for example, you start off with like 10 credits. So of course, that's going to be enough to probably get your project started, and then with maybe a few AI iterations after that. But of course, after that point in time, you're going to then start moving into what you would require to get something out of the paid plans itself. So do have a look at the plans that are available and see how much you would like to invest in the amount of credits in order for you to build out your projects. But hopefully this will give you a little bit more of a feel to the credit usage. So let's just quickly hit back now. I'm just going to show you one other thing as well. I'm just going to go back up to this particular account settings here. You can see here that one of the features is coming soon. Now, by the time you could be watching this, they may have introduced a brand new feature here to link your GitHub account. So what this tells me with the product is that you'll be able to build out your project with inside Dreamflow. You'll be able to then persist all of that content with inside a Git repository, which means that you can then perhaps work on your code outside of Dreamflow itself. And then of course, retrospectively, as you do those commits, then your changes would then be available with inside Dreamflow itself. So hopefully it's going to be very similar to how those other tools work, such as Lovable and your bolts, where you have that Git integration and you can still carry on doing work outside of the product itself. So just bear that one in mind. It's worth checking back on that to see if that is then activated. So let's now start with creating a prompt. I'm going to kind of create a prompt on this particular screen that's going to get us with our project created. Now, just one point of note here during this particular video is that there's going to be times when the AI is going to kind of be doing stuff in the background. I'm going to kind of like pause the video and I'm going to kind of let it all play out, and then I'm going to resume stuff, and then you can see kind of what the output is. I'm just doing that purely to save time. Otherwise, we'll be sat here for probably quite some time where you could be surely doing better things with your time instead of just watching it sort of play out. So I'm going to go and craft a prompt. I'm going to bring it in here and I'm going to show what I come up with. Okay, so I've crafted my prompt here. We are going to build kind of like a juice bar kind of combo builder. So we're going to create some fun drinks in our particular application. We're going to kind of mix up some ingredients and we're going to see what it comes up with. Now I'm going to keep this prompt in the description so you can kind of get an idea what the full prompt looks like. But as you can see here, I've kind of given a bit of a summary here. I've got a goal of what the users are going to be able to do here, and then of course there's some core features as well. So I'm going to spare you the kind of the detail here, but rest assured that we're just kind of creating an application here that hopefully will be kind of like will be interesting. Hopefully it will take into account the light and dark mode, which some application builders do have struggle with. You put it in the prompt, but for some reason they don't allow you, they don't almost do light and dark mode right off the bat. So let's see if we have trouble here with Dreamflow. And here I've just said the UI style is going to be fun and vibrant. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to hit this little button here to send that prompt And what then Dreamflow is going to go away and do is going to kind of interpret the prompt. It's going to kind of come up with a little plan in terms of kind of what it's going to deliver. You can see here that on the left hand side we kind of got these, it's almost like a bit of a checklist here that itself is going to go through to kind of build out all of the code and get us to a point where we can then run this particular application with inside the Dreamflow IDE itself. So it's just going to do a little bit of pre-work here in sort of generating some of the code, some of the files, and then it's going to start working through this particular section. So I'm just going to leave that to do its thing, and as I said before, I'm going to pause it right here and we're going to come back hopefully when it's kind of done its thing. Okay, so as you can see here, the checklist is gradually being checked off at the position we are. This part of the process, by the way, will take quite some time, and you'll see that very, very shortly when we move into the IDE for the first time. It will give you an indication to, one, how long it's taken to do this particular phase, but secondly, it's going to tell you how many credits we've used. And I reckon, probably if I'm going to guess here in my current testing of this, is that it's normally about 5 credits or so that it generates on the initial project build, but we'll check that out in just a second. But as you can see on the right hand side, all the code is being written. Again, if you're not a coder, don't worry too much about this, and we'll have a look and see what that looks like with inside the IDE very, very shortly. So yeah, next stage is we'll see what the project has, see what Dreamflow has created for us. Okay, super exciting. Here we go. It's all starting up. You're going to see it for the first time just as I'm going to see it. So it's always a good moment because you never kind of know what it's going to generate. It could be absolutely fantastic, but I would also say be prepared to kind of go back to scratch. A lot of these tools, in my experience, not always gets it right the first time. But I think we're looking pretty good here, actually. Looking like we have something that is going to be workable almost straight away. So you can see here in the browser, we've got our kind of application up and running. It's kind of running, so we can kind of click on stuff, I'm assuming. So let's just try that. Let's just click on Apple, and then we're in. So we selected an apple. We've got a name there. Let's just move down. We've got different sort of fruits here. Okay, so we might have a little problem almost instantly where we can't actually scroll up, so I'm sure we'll crack that very, very shortly. Let's just try selecting something else here. Okay, not a particularly good start. Let's just click on this. What does this do? Just clears us back. I can scroll in this screen but can't scroll down, but can sort that one out. Just try that. Okay, I see what we're scrolling in this particular area here. So this is great to have all this nutritional summary stuff, but of course we need to be able to scroll down in the main screen. So we'll go and correct that very shortly. Right, so where are we now? On the right hand side there, we can see here we got the agent kind of output here. This is kind of giving us that initial summary of what it has produced for us here. It's worth a little glance here just to make sure that that is how we expect it to be. And just as I mentioned previously, is how long did that take? Well, you can see here it took 456 seconds to build our project. Now here is the moment of truth. How many credits did it use? Let's drop this down. I said I reckon it'll be about 5-ish. Let's see what we got. There we go, 5.98. There we go. And that is pretty consistent in my testing so far. Again, I reckon it's going to be dependent on the complexity of your prompt and all that kind of stuff. But so far it's been around about 5-ish in terms of credits for the initial build of the application. So that is pretty good. Let's have a look and see how this application is working. So we've got some favorites. We've got a settings area here as well. We kind of got light and dark mode themes. Okay, I've just selected that. My theme hasn't adjusted, just as I suspected. This is the same thing happening here with Dreamflow as it is happening in other tools as well, but don't worry too much. We'll come and correct that very, very shortly. So we'll go back to build, and so yes, we've got some little problems here. We kind of got some categories that is kind of being sort of displayed here on building our juice. We can select ginger, and then we can kind of go in now and we can kind of select more ingredients, by the way, and kind of building all of this up. We've got our combo name, which was part of our prompt. We did say that we kind of want to come up with some interesting name, but of course in the UI we've kind of got this in a bit of a strange order. But let's just try saving this as a favorite. Got a nice little notification to say that we've saved it. Let's go into the favorites, and there it is. And we can go back into edit here, and that's allowing us to edit the combo. So it looks like it's just allowing us to change the name. Let's just see if that persists, save that, and there it is, all updated. So it'd be good, obviously, in this type of application to be able to go in now and make those particular changes. But other than a few UI quirks, I think we are pretty good. So what do we have then with inside Dreamflow? Well, we can see here, as I've just said, we have the agent on the right hand side. That is just one part of the product. We've got the preview here in the kind of the central part. Now, of course, the great thing about this particular product is that you can kind of you can work in a variety of different ways. I can go into the code view here. I can select code here, and you can see here is a kind of a typical kind of Flutter application directory structure, which you can kind of drill down into. We can kind of go into various kind of screens here and services and other widgets. These are kind of like some components that's being generated for us. So we'll come back to that very, very shortly. That's the code view. We can kind of split it as well, so we can kind of bring in kind of the kind of the designer, the preview of the application, and we've got the agent here on the right hand side. So almost instantly we're kind of getting a preview of the application. We got the AI features, and then we've got the code view here. But there is more to this particular product. So we can press on this little button here, and that could switch the preview over to the left hand side, so you can kind of set things up to however you would like, which is really, really nice. We can go back into just pure code view or just the preview there and get us back to kind of where we were previously. We've also got some options here to have a look at here. We can look at our sort of our output here on a tablet, what might it look like on a tablet and a desktop. And then we also have this expanded view as well, which will kind of take up all of the available space. Now this will work responsively, of course, as we kind of adjust sort of this. We can see that this is kind of moving in and out like that. So that is the kind of the preview. We're building a mobile app here, so I'm just going to keep it purely in this particular layout. Now what is also nice about Dreamflow is the fact is that because these are all widgets, we can then kind of like sort of select those widgets with inside this particular preview canvas here, which is going to allow us to do a number of different things. And one of the key things for me is the fact is that if you are a Flutter developer, then it means you're going to be quite familiar with what's going to be presented. So we can go here to the inspect mode. We can then click on any of these particular widgets, and remember, everything inside a Flutter application is a widget, and we can kind of select all of these. Now that is great, but this is where it works really, really well in Dreamflow. We can bring up this option here called properties. Now, of course, if you are, again, as a Flutter developer, you're going to be quite familiar with that every widget has a series of properties associated with it. And what Dreamflow is doing here is it's exposing all of these Flutter get it out of my head, Flutter flow. But these Flutter properties are all being made available to you for you to be able to customize. Now, that doesn't mean that everything you will change here, but at least you're now getting the ability to kind of inspect what a text widget, what properties can and cannot be set. And this can help you in a number of different ways. And now, one of the important parts that this could help you with is from a code perspective. So if you are not a coder and you are looking to maybe learn coding a little bit more to support your learning journey, then one of the great things about this is the fact is that you can move into the code view. In fact, let's just kind of split this here just for a second. If I now go back into inspect mode here, I can select this, and you can see if I just, in fact, let's just hide the agents. I'm going to select the little option to remove the agent. In fact, the agent's not disappearing. Let me hit on that little button there. So as I kind of select these particular widgets, you can see kind of its positioning there within inside the code view to exactly where that widget is currently placed within inside the code itself. Now, of course, as I start adjusting these particular properties, they'll be reflected in the code, and of course in the preview they'll also be then reflected when you kind of do a reload of the application as well. So for example, this kind of says orange here. This is pulling that particular kind of text value from the from some dynamic data that's kind of sitting within inside the application itself. But if I go up to, let's say for example, let's inspect the title here where it says build your juice. You can see here that there is the text there, and of course I can just say here and say create your juice like that. Now that's changing the code itself. If I now, I believe what it's doing is it's kind of, I have to do the save itself, and you can kind of see that's now reflected on the left hand side, which is pretty handy. You get that instant kind of preview. Now that's okay for adjusting some properties for particular kind of widgets. There's going to be times we're going to need to kind of reload your application, and we'll cover that in just a moment actually, but we'll come back to that. So yes, so the great thing, what I'm trying to say here is that you've got the best of both worlds here. You can kind of see what properties are available on the widgets. You can come in here and you can then make those changes yourself. Now, if you're not a coder, one thing that I highly recommend is that you try to be a little bit more balanced between using the AI agent, because of course, if you are wanting to make, say, this title change, for example, then you don't necessarily need to go into the AI agent to say, oh, could you change the title of my page? What I recommend that you do is get into the habit of kind of being able to use the inspect mode, finding where it is in the code, and then manually adjusting it in the code. That's going to save you credits, and then it means you can use the credits for the most key parts of building out your application. So just a little tip there, a bit of a newbie tip there. I know it feels obvious, but sometimes it's quite easy to kind of fall back into AI to kind of get it to make those particular changes. But you want to try and save your credits as much as you can. So don't feel uncomfortable if you're not a coder to kind of go into the code itself to make those basic levels of change. And if you do make a complete and utter mistake with inside the code, then you can use the AI agent to kind of get yourself out of trouble. You can kind of say, look, go and fix up my application because I've made a mistake, and it will go away and it will correct it. So we've covered a little bit about the properties here, and we'll touch on it a little bit more very shortly. We've looked at the code editor itself. As you can see here, we've kind of got our pages here. So here's our combo builder page here. So what's actually happened is we've got the main kind of the entry point of our application is here. You can see here that this is kind of the main kind of method here, the main kind of material out widget that's calling out to the home page here. This is another kind of page that we got here, which is another widget. And this kind of is going to set up all of the kind of the wrapper for our page as well. It's got the navigation bar just down here, and you can see here that this is going out to then 3 pages. You've got the combo builder page, the favorites page, and the settings page, and these are all located just here. So here's the combo builder page that's kind of doing this, this allowing you to manipulate all of these particular sort of widgets itself. So we'll come back a little bit more to the code very shortly. I think that's it for this little bit. Let's have a look around other areas of the UI to see what other important areas that we should be looking at. Okay, so if you're coming from tools such as Flutter Flow, you're going to be very familiar with this particular section here called the widget tree. And let's just expand that, because this is another panel we haven't looked at just yet. Now, basically what this is doing is this is giving you a hierarchical structure of the widgets that is presented within inside the components or the pages. You can see here within inside the home page itself, you can see here that we've kind of got the scaffold, which is kind of like, the parent of the whole of the page here. Then we've kind of got some containers, and if I bring up the inspect mode here and I can start clicking on these, you can kind of get an idea here what is being presented. So there's a scaffold, there is a container that sits at the bottom, and then we've got this navigation bottom navigation bar, and within inside that you've got the icons itself. So this is just another way for you to be able to kind of navigate your kind of application design here, to kind of drill into the various parts of your application. Of course, every time I click on these, if I click on the properties, let's just hide the agent for a second there. You can see now that as I click on all of these, you can see, in fact, I'll do the bottom navigation bar there, you can see the properties panel is therefore kind of being changed on the right hand side. So not only can we do that here, and not only can we do it here, we can also do it in all of these different places here within inside the actual page itself. And I'll go back into this particular container. In fact, there's a little bit of a bug here, because I can't actually get to that here unless yeah, I've kind of got some ordering issues here that you can't actually click on those as easily when you kind of got something that sits underneath, but I can get that one there. So I'm sure that's something that the Dreamflow team will kind of get resolved. But what I just really wanted to say here is that this is just yet another way for you to be able to kind of work in a hierarchical fashion through your actual application, through the pages or the components, to kind of get to the specific widgets themselves. You'll also notice here there's a little option here called widget tree settings, and you can, at the moment I've got this consolidated view on here which is kind of showing you kind of key widgets, but you've also got this one called detailed view, and as you can see I just changed that. If I just talk about back and forth, you can see now that some additional widgets are being displayed. So what it's doing here is kind of hiding probably what I would class as less essential widgets. You can see here we kind of got this padding that's being kind of displayed here. Now padding really doesn't have a lot going for itself, so there's clearly a set of widgets here that they're saying actually from that filtering just kind of hide these ones off because they're least important. So it's just another way for you to perhaps maybe just simplify the widget tree if you're kind of looking for something a little bit more specific, or you're trying to get a better idea of all of the key widgets and its representation within inside the hierarchy. So yeah, choose however you see fit there. So, and of course you can search widgets here. So if I'm just looking for containers, I can just do a search for that, or I'm looking for text like that. You can kind of just quickly find what you are looking for. But of course, if you're looking for Apple, you're not going to see that because this is looking for the widgets and not for any of the kind of any of the design elements that you've got in here, such as text labels or all that kind of stuff, or images or whatever. So that is the widget tree. Again, if you are a Flow user, you're going to be very, very familiar with the kind of widget tree. The difference here, though, is in Flow, when you open up a page or a component, then you are only seeing the widgets that are associated with the context of what you're seeing with inside of Flow itself. But here it's kind of bringing together a number of different in its hierarchy, other kind of like components and all that kind of stuff. So I'd kind of would hope that inside the code view, for example, if I was sort of pressing on these here, I would kind of see this widget tree kind of get updated, which is a bit interesting. If you go to preview, and in fact, if I bring up a different page here, let's just remove the properties here. Let's just split this out here. One thing that's quite interesting here is that if I go to like the favorites page, you can see kind of the widget tree here on the left hand side is updating as you kind of change here, but you can't do that with inside the code. It kind of doesn't, there's no link there like I've got here down there, and I can't understand that. So if anybody in the comments can kind of work out what might be going on here, I'd be very interested to know. But maybe it's a known issue, maybe it's something they will fix downstream, but it's not a big deal, but I just wanted to point that out in my early testing. So that's fine. Let's just remove the code view here. Let's just get back here. So we've seen the widget tree. Let me just close that down there. Let's have a look at some of the other options that we've got here. So down the bottom here, you've got this preview status of your application. Of course, you can just hit this little reload here. This is going to do a complete kind of almost reload of your application and kind of get it back to its kind of a starting state. So of course, it will probably remove everything from, well, it would remove everything from memory at this particular point, but this is quite a significant kind of reload of your application. So we'll just leave that to come back. Here it comes now, preview refreshed, and here it comes. And then up the top here, you've kind of got these other options here called hot reload and hot restart. So let me explain a little bit about these. So hot reload is that if you find that you're making changes, very simple changes, such as more sort of UI sort of level changes, and you find that it's not refreshing, then a hot reload in your application will just do a very, very, very quick, very basic reload of the UI. All of the state will be maintained. Everything will be left still maintained in memory and all that kind of stuff. Doing a hot restart, though, is a little bit more stricter. It's going to clear out anything that's in memory, any state or anything like that. So that's classed as a little bit more of almost like a restart of your application in its own right, but obviously it's pretty quick here. So just use those as you need. But like I said, if you need to know a little bit more about what sort of reloading is and what restarting is, then just do a Google search for it. It's a very standard Flutter concept. Go and have a look in ChatGPT or something like that to explain it. So that is that. We won't talk too much about dependency management here, but of course, if you have introduced some third-party dependencies in your application, such as you've brought in some Sync Fusion charts or something like that, then of course you can add those via code and then refreshing the dependencies here, which means that those dependencies will then form part of your actual project. So for example, you can go into the code view here, the pubspec.yaml, you can add in your kind of dependencies here. So you can go to like pub.dev, you can find the package that you're interested in here, you can add it into this particular file, save it, and refreshing the dependencies here will kind of then go and bring down those libraries and then make them available to your application. So just a little bit of a tip there. So let's go back to the preview. So what else have we got here? On the left hand side, we've got some other little sort of options available to us. We've kind of got the themes here. Again, I'm not going to cover too much here about themes. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's quite complex. There's a lot going on here in terms of what it's kind of provided you, such as kind of your topography sizes and all of your kind of your colors and all that kind of stuff. Again, further videos are needed to kind of go into a little bit more depth there, but yeah, it's a lot. It's nice it's all in one place, but just bear in mind that it can get a little bit overwhelming in terms of where these get used. So I think that needs a kind of almost like a dedicated video in its own right. Of course, with your assets, if you would like to upload some material such as images and maybe some video content for your application, you can go into the images here. You can then upload the asset. Just go to your file system, it then forms part of your project, and then of course you can then reference those within inside the project. It's within inside the widgets themselves, like an image or something like that. And then the bit here, we got our Supabase integration, and we've also got a Firebase integration as well. We'll give that a little spin up in a second for Supabase, just to give you an idea of kind of what might happen under the covers, and we'll come back to that. And then what have we got down here? This is another really, really important bit down in this little section here, which is, I'll just sort of highlight that. Oh, here, just like that, we've got the issues, and we've got warnings, and then we got info as well. Now, I don't recommend that you ignore any of this here. Now, the great thing about this is that if your application has issues and has problems along the way and during its code generation, then the issues and warnings and info will kind of be presented here. Now, the great thing about this is that you can actually fix up your code if you have these particular issues. So it's going to give you the option to be able to correct anything that gets displayed in these particular areas. You'll see that I've got no issues in this project, but that's where they will be presented. So please do keep a check on that. Keep that as clean as you possibly can, because these things can build up through your project, and of course you don't want to then get to an advanced stage and have to go back through all of this stuff and fix this up. So just bear that one in mind. Now, the other bit that I want to point out to you is in this AI agent, and this is really smart. This is a really great feature, is that if you are looking to try to explain a change that you want to make to your application, you can create a little snapshot of the screenshot. So if, let's say, for example, I could say add screenshot here. Now it's taken a screenshot here and it's added it to the context of the chat. So you can kind of go in here and say, right, can you please change this? Can you please change that? So it gives the agent a little bit more information about the change that you would like to make. Now, this is is when you are perhaps got maybe like an overflow or something like that. If you're a Flutterflow user, you would have seen overflows probably many times. But if you are finding that your AI generated code, you're starting to see overflows on the screen, then just one little tip here is you can take a little screenshot here and you can then say, can you please correct the overflows, and it'll kind of space things out for you and all that kind of stuff. So that's a really good thing as well. And one thing that another good thing about what the agent does as well is if it detects an error in your application or a problem, it will actually take almost a screenshot itself automatically and get that corrected, which is a great feature within inside this application. So yeah, just a little bit of a tip there, and we've already covered the bit about kind of like the credits and stuff like that, so do keep a tab on that. And then of course you've got your chat history as well, so we can kind of go back and we can kind of carry on or resume chats that we've perhaps had before. And the other little tip as well is that when you have by feature and you've used the agent here and you've kind of crafted out a particular feature, then what I suggest you do is go up to the new chat here, create a brand new chat window, start having a brand new conversation about the next feature. Don't kind of just have one chat window that kind of runs the way through the application. My experience of using other very similar tools is that you kind of want to make sure that you start a brand new fresh conversation when you start moving on to something completely different to what you did previously. So that is that, and we'll cover next a little bit about the publish feature. Now, because Dreamflow is a pretty brand new project, there's still a lot to learn with this particular tool. And one particular area that I've not explored much myself is the publish feature. So within inside the paid plans of Dreamflow, we have this ability to publish our application. Now, what we can do a web, we can do an iOS, and we can do an Android deployment. And this is what's really great about this particular kind of product, is the fact is that you can do everything that you need to do. You can build out your dream project, whether it's coding, whether it's sort of using the AI agent, whether it's kind of setting properties within inside the application itself. But at some point, you're going to want to get to a stage where you're going to want to then publish your application, and you can do it right here. So you can go into and do one-click to web deployments here. There's various customization options that you'll be able to set. And then you've got iOS in here, which allows you to set all of the key information that you need to publish to the store. And then you kind of got Android as well. You can kind of add these into the tracks within inside the Play Store itself for doing sort of beta testing and stuff like that. So my casing point here is that you don't need to go outside of Dreamflow. You can kind of do everything that you need to do here from the actual product itself. But of course, there could be a valid case where you think this is all very well, I've created my perfect project, but now I want to download all of my code outside of Dreamflow. Well, that option is available to you by just pressing this little drop down here, and you've got the download code option. So that's going to give you a zip file. You can then take that zip file, that's a Flutter project. You can bring that up into your favorite IDE like Windsurf or Cursor or something like Visual Studio Code, and then you can carry on building out your project just using, coding it up, or again using kind of agent features within inside those particular tools in order for you to kind of carry on sort of building out your application. But remember, by doing it that particular way, it is a one-way street. Once you've downloaded your code and you're working outside of Dreamflow, there's no way of getting that code back in at this moment until, as I said right at the beginning of this video, when they start getting the Git integration in. I'm kind of hoping there you're then going to have that two-way sync there between GitHub and Dreamflow, and then also your other tools as well. So that, I'm sure, is coming downstream, so keep an eye on that. So that's a little bit about publishing as well. There's not too much more to tell you a little bit about the UI. So let's now move on to the next section. Okay, so everything I've done so far has been a lot of talking. I've been showing, obviously, but we've not actually done anything to our application. So we know that we got a light and dark mode problem. I want to get that sorted. I'm not going to code that up myself. Let's use the agent. Let's see if it can correct that problem for me. So I'm going to type in a prompt. I'm going to hit execute, and then what I'm going to do is then come back, and then let's see how well it has performed, and we'll also get an idea of how many credits it's using up as we go along. So I'm just going to type a prompt in here to correct that, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so here we go then. It's all been done for us. We kind of got the confirmation now on the right hand side here. Now, what I can do now is I would recommend that when you're making these kind of sort of changes that we're doing here, these aren't sort of like surface level changes. There's something that is clearly being changed underneath the hood of this application. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hit the little sort of reload here to get ourselves into a good position. Now I'm going to go to settings, and I'm kind of hoping here now, me by selecting dark here, and there it is. I get my dark theme, which is really great. Let's go back to light here. That is looking pretty good. I go back to build. So there we go. So things are worked pretty well. Now, I'm pretty sure that if I hadn't hit that reload here, then you wouldn't have seen that particular effect. So that is good. So just have a little quick look here at the credits that's used here, because I know we're interested in that here. So just under 1 credit to make that change. So that's kind of what you're budgeting for, really. Is anything between sort of like, half a credit to probably 1.5 credits on these particular requests here. So if you're on the free plan, it's not going to take you long after you've got your project build here to kind of then use up those particular credits that you've got. So no doubt a paid plan will be needed at some point. So there we go. So that's looking pretty good. So there's other little issues that we kind of got on this particular application here. We know that we can sort of like, in fact, we can't. We're not even. Oh, there we go. I'm scrolling now. We couldn't do it before. Yeah, there's a little bit of an issue here. For example, let's look at maybe a design sort of side here. So this particular section up here is all looking very, very good, but there is not a lot of margin here. So between here, so now I could just come into this particular sort of chat window here, or create a new chat window. We'll just keep it in here for a second, where we want to sort of create a little bit of padding here between the category selections. So let's just see how easily it can correct that for us. Okay, so I kept my kind of prompt quite straightforward. I said add some spacing between the category selection and the page title on the create juice screen. So there it goes. It's going to go away now. It's going to kind of look for that, and hopefully we should see that change kind of automatically reflected. Now again, these are the kind of changes that as a kind of a natural kind of developer you would be able to create yourself. You wouldn't go into the agent and do it, but I'm just purely doing it here just as a little test, just to see how something so simple can cost us in terms of credits. You can see here quite nicely it's just done exactly what I've wanted it to do here. Now if I have a look at the response, let's see how many credits that's used up here. So it's 0.48, so half a credit has gone, and you can see here 33.6 seconds. But of course what I could have done is I could have gone into inspect mode here. I can go into the tab bar. Let's go into then maybe the properties view. Let's have a look at the properties view here. Now I can see nothing here that's allowing us to kind of do any padding, so it's going to be probably on an outer kind of like container. So there we've got a container there, and you can see here we've got a margin. Let's have a look at that. So here it's doing 16 from the left and 16 from the right here. So let's have a look here. We could have gone in here, we could have done another 16. Let's just hit enter, and you can see that it's kind of dropped down. So there's different ways of kind of doing that. I'm just going to delete that out of here. But yeah, there's possibly another sort of spacing here. Maybe there is some other padding that's kind of happening in amongst there. There it is. But again, I don't want to go deep dive here onto widget setup or anything like that, but I'm just kind of purely demonstrating that you can use the properties here to kind of work out what is going on. But that's just, again, just a very simple example of setting properties or using the agent to do it. Let's move over to then the actual page here. Let's take on off inspect mode. Let's go into then this particular page here. And again, I can't sort of scroll here, which is kind of really annoying. So what I want to do is I want to kind of maybe kind of see if I could just give this a really simple prompt to kind of correct this particular problem. Let me just create a brand new chat here. Let me craft up then a new prompt here to kind of get this page corrected, and hopefully it will interpret that and make those changes for us. Okay, so things are a little bit more improved. Again, we've got some sort of errors that we need to sort out. Some of the overflow problems, in fact, we can sort of prompt this to sort that out in a second. But I can click on these now, and you can see now I can select more and more ingredients. I've got this whopping great nutrition preview panel here that's kind of totaling up the ingredients that I'm kind of setting here. I can kind of choose any of these, and of course I can then save as a favorite. Go into the favorites, and there they all are. So not too bad. I'm not particularly happy about this being particularly to be that big, and of course we can sort that with sort of more prompting. Let's just test out these kind of overflow issues. So let's just try that. Let's add that screenshot in. Please correct the overflow issues like that. Let's leave that to prompt it. Now it's going to take that screenshot. Hopefully it will show the overflow problems, and then we'll see that get corrected with inside the UI in just a sec. Okay, so there we are. The overflow issues are all resolved. We got a little bit of an issue here where this kind of the footer of this particular container is kind of overflowing the kind of the contents underneath. But again, just a very, very cosmetic thing that we can easily get sorted. Let's have a look at these previous requests, see how long that one took. That was a credit there just to sort out the overflow errors like that. So yeah, so things are looking pretty good. Again, we can muck around, we can sort of do more with this, but I think I want to move on to maybe let's see right off the bat what the Supabase integration is all about. So what I'm going to do now is move over here to the Supabase option. Now in another tab, I've already got, in fact this sort of Chrome extension I'm running here has already got Supabase kind of already authenticated, so it's going to know about that particular kind of sort of setup here. In fact, it's just going off now to Supabase here now to no doubt authorize use to Supabase. There it goes. I'm just going to select my training project here, authorize Dreamflow. Now, if I head back over now to Dreamflow here, we're going to see it now progress with all of this work on the left hand side. So the first step is setting up that connection to Supabase, and then it's going to create a brand new Supabase project. Now I've not looked at this in terms of accessing existing Supabase projects. I'm not quite sure how you would do that within Dreamflow at the moment. Perhaps again that is a feature that is coming downstream, or at the very least once it's done its initial setup and create a project, I think you can go in and then you can make those changes with inside the configuration to maybe point to another particular Supabase project. I've not tried that, but I think that option is there. So it's going to do the project setup, then it's going to do the code generation here. It's going to update my application. I've got absolutely no idea what it's going to do in my application. Now I'm going to make an assumption here that it's going to create kind of some login screens for me, some sign up. It's going to kind of do all of the code there, set all the code up in order to perform those actions within inside the Supabase database. And then of course we've got the schema deployment as well. So it's going to kind of work out kind of what sort of tables I need and all that kind of stuff for this particular application. We're going to kind of want to persist the choices that the user makes inside this application in the relevant tables. I think we might need to guide it a bit more, to be honest with you, in order to kind of get all of that set up, because all of this data is kind of held within inside the actual local application, because it's not really dynamic from an external provider. And in fact, just as I'm talking there, things have updated on the left hand side. You can see here we've got a brand new Supabase project, got a project ID. Here is the API URL and the anonymous key like that. I can open up Supabase here, but of course here it's now just paused and it's now ready for me to do exactly what it says there to generate the Supabase code for your app using AI. This creates schemas, database operations and client code tailored to your project, and then I can then deploy the schema. So things like row level security, which are really important to your applications, and certainly for Supabase projects is going to be super important here as well. Now it should set up all of that for me for authenticated users. So let's generate the client code. Here it's saying it's going to take 3 to 5 minutes. That doesn't surprise me at all. So here it's connecting to an external sort of tools here. So off it goes. I'm going to leave that to do that, and then I think it will pause, and then it will then ask me then to do the schema deployment. So we'll come back once this is done. Okay, so why this code is currently generating, I've just noticed down here we've got 2 warnings. I just want to quickly show you this. You can see here that these warnings are kind of listed here. You can press this little button here to fix with AI. And I'm not going to press that just at this moment because the agent is currently in operation at the moment. It'll probably fix those up itself. But I'm just going to leave it, as I said, to play out. But just like I said, it's a good little example here how you can use AI then to fix any of those issues that come up there. So this looks like it's pretty well much almost there. We've got an error on screen here which it kind of hasn't sort of detected. I'm just going to hit the reload here just to see if that is going to make any difference, and there it is. We are now into what looks like a kind of a login screen. So that's a good start. We obviously don't want to do this at the moment because there's one thing that we haven't done, and that is kind of deploy the schema changes. So let's do that. Off it goes. It will go and deploy our table updates. If I head over to Superbase at the moment, you'll see here that I've got my table editor. I can see that these tables have probably just been created here. My favorites, ingredients, users, preference, users. That is looking really good. In fact, it looks like I've got ingredients already inside my database table. So that is a very good start indeed. Let's go back here. Just wait for that schema to finish doing its deployment. And then what I'm hoping for straight off the bat here is to be able to kind of sign up here and create a brand new account. I can just hit the little sign up option here. In fact, sorry, that one there. And I can now fill in these details. So there we go. Schema has been deployed. That's looking good. Let's see if I can now create an account. Okay, so there we go. Put all the details in. Let's hit the sign up button. Okay, that's there. Okay, so nothing's really happened at this particular point. Now, has my account been created? Let's have a little look. In the users table, in fact, I've got some sample users in there already. I'm not quite sure they're going to be, they are linked to user ID, so maybe the application has actually created me some users, which it looks like it has. So it has created my account, but it hasn't moved me on. Got it. There we go. It's waiting for verification. So good old the issue that we got here is let's have a look here under email. Oh no, that's looking okay. Not quite sure why it's not moved me on. Confirm emails turned off. That's quite interesting. So that should have allowed me to move on. Let's just go back here. Let's just go to sign in again. Okay, so it's not recognising my username and password. It's possibly a bit of a smoke screen. This message is coming back because it probably is just because my account has not been validated. Let me just go back into here. So it's my name. We've got all that looking good. Let's go into authentication again. It says it's waiting for verification, even though my provider has interesting. Never had that issue before in what it expects. Maybe it was still working on something. Let me delete my user account here. I'm going to table editor. Let's just delete that row out there. Let me go back into my database, sorry, my tables, so authentication. Let me delete out my user there. Let me just try that again, back from the app. Okay, let's sign up again. And it hasn't moved me on, so it looks like it's then stuck in that problem again where I've probably got the same issue. User accounts there. Okay, so I just found this problem. For some reason, I had to refresh Superbase in order for this toggle to be displayed, which was really odd because, as you saw previously, that was actually switched off. So I've no idea what's going on, but yeah, let me just save that. So that means that now when I sort of register for an account, then I know that I don't need to confirm the email that will be sent out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back into my table. I'm just going to delete myself out as a user, just so I can just double check that and make sure that we're all good. Never had that before in Superbase, which is a bit odd. Let's go down to authentication. Let's just delete myself as a user like that. Let's go back into Dreamflow here. Let's now go back to sign up. Oh, okay, I'm actually here. Let me just, must need to log out here. Let's just see if that sign out works. Go back up to sign up here. Let's put ourselves in. Okay, hit the sign up button here. And it says I'm already registered. I literally just deleted my account. What is going on here? Has it just gone and re-put it back in again? Oh man, what is going on? Oh boy. Let's make sure there's nothing in the table. It could be that... there we go, it's good. Right, let's go back. Let's try it now. Sign up. Hey, finally, right, we're there. There we go. Okay, so I'm signed in. That's all very, very good. I'm assuming that there's my favorites, which I haven't created yet. I've got all of these particular options now. I don't actually know at this moment whether these are coming down from the database. So let's go back into here. Let's go into ingredients. Now, there's quite a lot here, but this is Apple. Let's just change this to Apply like that. Let's go back into Dreamflow. Let's just do a little refresh here. Is that going to bring it down? Maybe let's just do a quick restart. So it looks like they might still be coming down from the local state. So let's prompt to get this one sorted. Let's all ingredients. Okay, so just prompted all ingredients should be loaded from the database. Let's just give this chance to finish up, and then we'll see, hopefully, we should see for apples, we should see that say Apply. Okay, so we're back in business again. As you can see here, I've got some data now that is coming back from my database. I've got duplicates in my database, and one thing I've noticed is that the data that was kind of created there originally doesn't have any kind of image or anything like that. So the images were being presented because they were hard-coded in the application. That's kind of what it created. So I'll have to add in an image URL column here, link those off to images for them then to be displayed inside the UI itself. What I've also had to do is I've also had to prompt this to hopefully persist my choices in the actual database itself. So let's just choose a couple of ingredients. Let's choose watermelon and strawberry. Let's go to boosters. Let's add some protein in there as well. Let's save that as a favorite. And it's got failed to save a combo. So clearly there's an issue here with saving to the database. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this little save to favorites. There it is. Let's quickly do a screen grab here. So I'm going to say on here, when I attempt to save to favorites, I get an error as shown in the screenshot. Now the thing is that this tool doesn't really have much context around kind of what the actual error is. I just wonder whether there's anything at all that's available within inside the developer tools here at all, which is just sort of function F12 inside Google Chrome. Probably not. Nothing that's going to help us there, so I'll just close that down. Let's see if it can work out the problem to why I can't save these favorites to the database, and we'll come back and we'll give it another test. Okay, so it's coming back and it's kind of explaining to me that it needs to put some more, some more better error handling in there, basically to try and determine what the actual problem is. So it's kind of come back and sort of made a suggestion to me, and I've told it, yeah, go away, kind of add some of this stuff in, which is kind of what I felt is at the time there was kind of really not a lot for it to go on to kind of work out why it couldn't persist this information into the database. So that's what I've done. I've kind of prompted that. Let's see what it does, and we'll try again. Well, that certainly went round the houses. If we look here, it's cost me nearly 5 credits, and it's just gone and implemented like bucket loads of logging and all that kind of stuff. So that was quite painful, that was, to kind of watch that go through. Now, whether it's made any difference whatsoever is another question. It may have just literally provided login to try and work out what the problem is. Let's give it another go. Let's just use watermelon. Let's just use pineapple. Let's save as favorites. And there we go. Oh my gosh, it's even worse. Unsupported operation, internet address lookup. What is going on here? Has it provided any kind of information here? I've got exceptions. Wow. Attempting to save. Okay, it didn't really give me much information in terms of what is going on there. Did it make a network request here? Let's just hit the save to favorites. No network requests whatsoever. So yes, all a bit interesting that. I can't quite work out why that's doing that. But again, we can go through and we can start prompting to try and work out the problem. I'm sure we can solve it quite straightforward, to be quite honest with you. But I don't want to spend too much time on worrying about solving particular problems. Let's just do one more thing in this, is taking the actual code that we've kind of downloaded. Let's take that into something like Windsurf and let's see what it actually looks like. So let's go up the top here. Let's go here and let's download the code itself. That's coming down. Okay, so there it is. It's downloaded a zip file. Let's just extract that. Let's go into Windsurf. Let's open up that folder. Downloads, and let's go into here. Let's open that up. Now this is going to be a Flutter project, so we can do a run pub-get. So if you've got Flutter installed already, you are good to go. So let's just now double check here. So that's looking pretty good, all of that. We got our simulator. Let's go into, let's just do a Flutter run here from the command line here. Flutter run, that's going to compile the application, fire everything up in the style guide for us. Style guide, what am I talking about? The iOS simulator. It's been a bit of a long run, this particular video, but yeah, this is going to fire up there. It's going to compile it. But I just want to demonstrate the fact is that we can kind of go into something like Windsurf or Cursor or something like that, take a fully created project from Dreamflow, fire it up here. One little tip here, one thing that's actually quite good at is using something like Windsurf to kind of like go away and kind of try and solve particular problems here. Like, for example, we've got this issue at the moment where we can't quite save. So instead of using up all of our credits with inside Dreamflow itself, we could kind of do that in Windsurf. That might be much more cost-effective way of doing it if you are on one of the paid plans. Let me just sign into the application. Okay, hit the sign in button there. So we're all signed in here, and then let's just make sure they're getting the same problem as we did before. Save to favorites. Okay, we're getting a little bit more coming back here. So we're seeing a little bit more here now. It's interesting. So perhaps, yeah, there's a little bit more going on that we can take these details here. In fact, let's just quickly try that in Flutter. I'm just going to take that here. Let's see what it comes up with and tells us potentially what the problem is. Okay, Windsurf's gone and updated about 3 files. It seems to think that it's actually resolved the problem. So let's just have a quick look and just see if it has. I'm just going to do a restart of the application. Let's just choose that, and let's go say save to favorites. It said it's added it to the favorites. If I now go to the favorites there, and it's listed. Perfect. That's coming from our database as well. So there we go. This is pretty good. I could now take the contents of these particular files that is being updated here with inside Windsurf, just literally copy and paste that into sort of Dreamflow, and then we are good to go. So there we go. We had to rely on another product here to kind of resolve that particular problem. No doubt we could have probably carried on prompting with inside Dreamflow to kind of get us to where we need to get to. So let's just move back over to Dreamflow here if I can find it. Okay, so before we wrap up then, I just want to cover a couple of different things that I touched on. So the Supabase kind of setup here, I mentioned before about could we actually change these values. That you can't actually change these with inside kind of the product itself. Now, I've not had a look at any areas of the code base here to see if you can change them there. So that's a little bit disappointing that you can't actually change those currently with inside Dreamflow itself. The other bit I wanted to point out as well that you can sometimes run into an issue. I've had this a couple of times in sort of playing with this particular tool, that you get into a situation where you're in this status of crashed. It's like, okay, I can't get out of it. It's just permanently crashed. I've tried reloading kind of Dreamflow and it doesn't sort of resolve the problem. But there is one particular option that is that did actually solve the problem, and that is up here. There's this reload project option that does like a full reload outside of the actual IDE itself, and that will hopefully then clear that up, and then you'll be back into then a status of running again. So just in case you get yourself in a stuck state, that's one way of resolving it. So we didn't cover Firebase integration at this point. I'll cover that again in another particular video. So I think all in all, I think it's been pretty successful. We've kind of got our application up and running. Yes, there is certainly a lot more customization that we can do here by using the agent here. This has been like a bit of a million miles an hour look at Dreamflow. I think we need to, the tool is going to settle down. Obviously, I think from where we are right now, this is, or certainly as of the 1st of August, everything is looking really, really exciting for the future with this particular product. So who is this sort of suited for, this particular application? Well, as you can see, that you kind of need some kind of at least a certain level of technical kind of understanding to kind of navigate kind of what it's doing here. So this is not kind of like your your bolts or your lovables, where it's kind of very much geared up for just kind of continually prompting and kind of building out your application. There's certainly different layers of this particular product for you to be able to sort of go through to really get the most out of it. It's certainly, from a Flutterflow perspective, Flutterflow does a lot of work for you. It sets up a lot of sort of writes a lot of code for you. It kind of sort of takes that away from you a little bit, and you can kind of just you're almost configuring up your application within something like Flutterflow. Whereas this is really kind of opening up the kind of the lid and allowing you to kind of really get in at a very, very low level to suit probably all skill sets in terms of sort of project building. But if you are coming at this as a complete kind of you have got no sort of software development experience, then I would say that it's not quite geared up, I don't think, personally, in my opinion, for people just purely to sort of vibe code kind of sort of no code kind of projects. You do need a little bit of low code knowledge, or at least a little bit of software experience in terms of understanding a little bit about what is going on here. But one really positive thing about this particular product is the fact is, if you are not a coder and you're happy to kind of use the kind of the agent and then inspect what code is being generated, you really, really bolster your skills when it comes to Flutter itself, and that will really allow you to skill up quite quickly, I think, in terms of what code is being generated, what it actually does, how it actually works, and then you'll be able to getting a little bit more to get your hands dirty a little bit more with inside the actual code itself. So yeah, so that's pretty well much my summary so far. I'm going to cover a lot more of this on the channel. There's one little thing that we're going to do, and that is we're going to look and see how many credits that we've used up in this little exploration. I think it was about 33 that we kind of started with. So let's have a quick look at the account. Let's see how we are looking, and we're at 58.28. So yeah, a little more, sort of 26 credits or something like that we've used in this little journey in this particular video. So yeah, I mean, that's a good one for this particular video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you do like these kind of videos, please do hit the like button, really do appreciate it. If you like this kind of play around with these kind of tools and you like me to kind of delve in, then please do subscribe to the channel as well, and you'll see more of this kind of content in the future. And please do comment as well in the comments on what you would like to see me cover in the future as far as Dreamflow. Perhaps you've got some scenarios you would like me to cover, and maybe you can just build through that together to maybe something like a finish product. And one more thing is, if you're not a member of the Digital Pros No Code Academy, please do check the link in the description. It'd be great to see you there as well. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.